class. So today we're going to learn about the structure and function of blood vessels. This is going to be a little bit more drier concept, drier lesson than you guys are used to. I'm just going to throw the content at you. Probably about 10 or 15 minutes. So if you guys can give me some attention for that long, then we'll move on to a bit more of an engaging activity. You remember that in prior lessons we've already talked about the structure of the heart and major arteries and veins. We've also talked about the cycle of blood through all the passages it go through, so coronary, pulmonary, and systemic pathways. And we've also talked about the cycle of the heart. So now we're going to get into blood flow from the heart and down to the exchange level. So how do we get nutrient-rich blood from our heart to actual exchanging on a tissue level? So blood vessels are primarily composed of 3 layers. I included the scientific names on here for you guys' interest, but for the content knowledge that you guys need to know, you can just consider them as the inner, middle, and outer layers. We'll start at the outer layer. So the outermost layer of your blood vessel is composed of an epithelium and connective tissue. Your epithelium, if you remember from past lessons, is a tissue that forms barriers between you and the outside world and is continuous, so it forms barriers between your organs and other organs. And your connective tissue links together all these organs. So it links together your stomach with the tissues of your body wall. It provides structural support as well as metabolic support to surrounding tissues. Your middle layer is mostly composed of elastic tissues and muscle fibers that are specialized for contraction. And your inner tissue is mostly composed of connective tissue that is actually in contact with the blood, which you'll see in the next diagram. So here's a diagram of an artery and a vein, just to give you a visual representation of the difference between an artery and a vein on these 3 levels. This is the scientific names on here, so you have your outer layer, your middle layer, and your inner layer, and the same thing on this side. Notice how much more in depth and stronger and bigger this artery's middle layer is than the vein, right? Because that has to be specialized for contraction. If I'm going too fast, just slow me down. Alright, feel free to ask questions. So this is a diagram showing you all the types of blood vessels in your body, from your heart, going out of your heart and then back into your heart. Again, you can see that the 3 layers of tissues change depending on which type of blood vessel we're talking about. Obviously, you can already tell that veins are a lot less complex in design than arteries. So we're just to give you a rough representation before we go too in depth, the blood's going to come out of your aorta and travel throughout the rest of your body. As you go down towards gas exchange level, your arteries are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller until you get to the smallest blood vessels in your body at the capillary level. And then after gas exchange, you're going to go back up. You're going to get bigger and bigger as you get closer to the heart to deal with blood volume. So the first type of artery that's coming out of your heart is called a muscular artery. Elastic artery. It's largest in diameter because it has to deal with the most blood volume coming out of your heart. It needs a lot of muscle and elastic fibers to deal with this blood. So it's just like, remember when we went through the cycle of the heart, or the rhythm of the heart, and how it pushes all the blood out. It has to be able to stretch with that surge. So it can't be a very rigid pipe. If you guys remember that, trying to pump a large amount of water through a rigid pipe, it would just break. So it needs to be able to stretch and recoil in response to the blood volume. The second type, going down from the heart, is called a muscular artery. It's a medium size. It still transports quite a bit of blood, but now you're starting to get onto the distribution level. So it's distributing the blood, starting to distribute blood to your organs and tissue level. It's primarily composed of smooth muscle, and now we're starting to get on the level where it's constricting and dilating. Yeah, so vasoconstrictor, vasodilate in order to either control the blood flow, how much blood wants to go into the tissues. We're getting smaller and closer to exchange, we're getting to arterioles. These are very delicate and small. They're composed of very little amounts of tissue layers, primarily just the inner layer. They deliver blood to the capillaries and control blood pressure. So again, they regulate blood pressure based on the change in their diameter. Capillaries, this is where everything important happens with your blood. These are the smallest blood vessels in your body, so they're very, very delicate. They connect arterioles to venules, which we're going to get to. And they're the site of exchange between your blood and your surrounding tissues. They're composed of specialized tissues, which you don't need to know the types of them, you just need to know that they're specialized tissues that control how much and what type of substance gets distributed across the membrane, whether it's oxygen or protein or plasma or anything that the cell needs. The capillaries will change their inner layer of tissue based on what the cells around them need. So after exchange has occurred between tissues and cells, we're getting back into veins, so we need to think about how blood's going to get back to the heart. We've just pumped all this blood into our tissues, and now somehow we have to get it back to our heart to get it pumped back to the lungs again. So veins collect blood from your organs and your tissues and return it to the heart. They're much simpler in design, as I've already mentioned. We pretty much just have large and medium-sized veins, and then venules. So we go from capillaries into the venules. The venules collect blood from the capillaries, and they're mostly composed of a delicate inner layer. And then we're going to go back up in size, back till we get to the heart. So every vein has this kind of valve in it, so if you guys can think about if veins are taking in all this blood from the surrounding tissues and it's waiting for the heart to pump it through, there has to be a way. It's not like the arteries, it's not pumping and almost free-flowing with gravity. Veins have to have something that they wait for the heart to push it back up, so there has to be a way to stop the blood from just pooling in the bottom of your legs. So in every vein we have things called valves at their basic level. And valves are pretty much just what they say there. They're a way of stopping the blood flow or the backflow of the blood. So what happens is you'll be taking in blood from all these tissue layers, and as soon as the heart pumps, it'll get through here at a very ill-defined pump that will push the blood through here, and then to stop the blood from coming back down here, we have a backwards valve almost that will, once the blood's pushing down on it, will close it so the blood can't flow down here anymore. And eventually, with successive heartbeats, your blood will go back to your heart through the veins. And yeah, that's the end of the structure and function of blood vessels. So now we're getting to a bit of activity, or send you guys some homework. So just give me a minute to set that up. That's the end of that lesson. Feel free to come up and ask me some questions like